In the heart of South Memphis, where music pulses through the streets and dreams are often shaped by struggle, Aaliyah Carter was determined to be more than just another girl with a mixtape. At 22, she had already spent years writing bars in her bedroom, practicing flows over YouTube beats, and posting short clips of herself rapping on Instagram and TikTok under the name Interrogation. Her name, a blend of lyrical and hurricane, wasn't just catchy. It was a warning. She came with force and her words didn't miss. Growing up in a low-income neighborhood, Aaliyah learned early how to survive in chaos. Her father had been in and out of jail, and her mother worked double shifts to keep the lights on. There were nights with no food in the fridge, no heat in the winter, and no one to depend on but herself. But even then, she had a notebook filled with rhymes and a cheap mic her cousin gave her for her 15th birthday. She recorded songs in her closet, uploading them to SoundCloud and sharing links with anyone who would listen. Most didn't. But the few who did heard something real. Interrogation's music wasn't polished. It was raw, honest, and deeply personal. She didn't try to mimic what was popular. She rapped about what she lived. There were verses about evictions, heartbreak, fake friends, and dreams that felt too far away. As time went on, her confidence grew. She started performing at local open mics and small venues, slowly building a following. The audience wasn't huge, but they were loyal. They felt like they knew her. She wasn't a superstar, yet, but she was theirs. It was during this rise that she entered a relationship with a man named Reese. He was older, flashy, and known around the neighborhood for his connections and his temper. Some warned her about getting involved with him, but she was drawn in by the way he believed in her. In the beginning, he supported her music, helped fund her studio time, and told her she was going to be big. But as her fame started to grow and her independence became more visible, the dynamic shifted. He became controlling, jealous, and unpredictable. What started as love quickly turned toxic. He didn't like her being around other men in the studio. He didn't like the outfits she wore to performances. He didn't like when she traveled alone. Eventually, she began to distance herself. She didn't make a public statement, but those close to her knew the relationship was over. Interrogation was focused on her future, and she wasn't going to let anyone drag her back down. Then came the freestyle. Late one night, Interrogation posted a clip of a new verse to her Instagram. She was in a dimly lit studio, headphones around her neck, eyes locked on the camera. The beat was heavy, the flow was sharp, and the lyrics were bolder than ever. But it was one particular line that set everything in motion. She rapped about a man who runs from cops but can't run a house. A line delivered with venom and precision. She never named Reese, but those who knew her knew exactly who it was aimed at. The clip exploded. Within hours, it was reposted by dozens of pages, drawing both applause and controversy. Fans praised her fearlessness, calling her the next big thing in female rap. But others warned that she was playing with fire. In Memphis, lines like that didn't always stay on the mic. The streets talked, and the wrong words could echo louder than expected. For Interrogation, the freestyle was just her truth. But for someone else, it was war. The morning after her freestyle went viral, Interrogation woke up to hundreds of new notifications. Her phone buzzed constantly. Followers, likes, shares, mentions. People were tagging her in reaction videos, remixes, and duets. Local blogs were already calling the clip her breakout moment. And major hip-hop pages were resharing it with captions like, "Memphis got a new queen." It was the kind of exposure she had been dreaming of since her first recording session, and for a while it felt like everything was finally clicking into place. Her numbers soared. In just 48 hours, her follower count doubled, and her SoundCloud page crashed from the sudden traffic. She was booked for 3 new shows in different cities, and a small label based in Atlanta slid into her DMs, asking if she was open to a conversation. Interrogation was riding a wave of momentum, and she wasn't looking back. She posted a celebratory story on Instagram, just her smiling with the caption, "This the beginning." But behind the scenes, tension was building. What seemed like a career-defining moment to her was a direct hit to someone else's pride. Reese, the man she had once trusted and loved, had seen the freestyle too. It was impossible not to. Everyone in their circle had. His phone had been blowing up with messages and memes. People in barbershops, gas stations, and street corners were talking about how he'd been exposed in a verse. To most, the lyric was clever and cutting, part of the game. But to Reese it was a threat to his image. In a world where reputation meant everything, being publicly disrespected wasn't something easily ignored. He wasn't a rapper, but his name still carried weight in certain parts of the city. And now people were laughing at him. That kind of humiliation didn't go unnoticed, and it didn't go unpunished. Lyricane wasn't unaware of the reaction. She saw the comments. Some fans warned her to be careful. Others tagged Reese directly, mocking him in ways that only fueled the fire. She tried to brush it off, insisting to her close friends that she had a right to speak her truth. She didn't start drama, she finished it. That was her attitude. She believed her words were a form of survival, a way to reclaim power after months of feeling controlled and silenced. Still, things started to feel different. One of her friends noticed an unfamiliar car parked down the street late at night. A few days later, someone tagged her in a photo that showed her house in the background. She told herself it was probably just a fan, but a small seed of paranoia was planted. She started checking her locks twice, looking over her shoulder more often and moving differently. The buzz of success was still there, but now it carried an edge of unease. Despite the warning signs, Lyricane pushed forward. She wasn't going to let fear control her again. Her next big opportunity was a showcase in Atlanta, a platform for unsigned artists with industry reps in the crowd. It was the kind of event that could lead to a record deal, maybe even a national tour. She prepared relentlessly, rehearsing her set, picking her outfit, and teasing her fans online with snippets of unreleased tracks. Just before the trip, she posted a selfie with the caption, "From the closet booth to the big stage. Y'all not ready." It was bold, confident, and full of hope. But what she didn't know, what no one around her knew, was that someone had already decided she had gone too far. The freestyle that made her famous wasn't just a viral moment. It was a spark. And now something dangerous had been lit. Atlanta was buzzing with energy the night of the showcase. Dozens of unsigned artists had traveled from all over the South, each hoping to catch the eye of someone who could change their life. Lyricane was one of the most anticipated performers on the lineup. Her name had weight now, social media made sure of that. She had momentum, raw talent, and a story that people were already invested in. For the first time, her dream didn't feel distant. It felt like it was just a few hours away. She arrived in the city with her manager, a close friend who had been by her side since her first open mic. They checked into a modest hotel downtown, nothing fancy but safe and quiet. The plan was simple: rest, rehearse, perform. Everything had been going smoothly. Lyricane posted a behind-the-scenes photo of her sound check, followed by a short video of her rapping a few lines backstage. Her fans were hyped. Comments flooded in. "You made it. This your moment. Don't stop now." That evening, she and her team headed to the venue in a rented black sedan. The showcase was being held at a popular nightclub just outside the city center, known for its gritty vibe and deep ties to the local hip-hop scene. They took the back entrance, as instructed by the event organizers, to avoid the growing crowd out front. The lot behind the club was dimly lit, half empty and quiet. Unbeknownst to them, someone had already been waiting there. A black SUV was parked near the far edge of the lot. Its engine was idling. Its headlights were off. No one noticed it at first, it blended into the shadows. But security footage later revealed a figure in a hoodie crouched by the club's side exit, out of view of the main cameras. The moment Lyricane stepped out of her vehicle, the trap was sprung. 3 shots rang out, loud, sharp, and echoing across the lot. Panic followed instantly. Her manager ducked behind the car, shouting for help. Someone inside the venue screamed, A security guard rushed outside but saw nothing except the aftermath. The SUV was already gone, tires screeching as it disappeared into the night. Lyricane collapsed on the pavement, her body limp, her white crop top stained with blood. One bullet had struck her chest. Another tore through her side. A third had grazed her arm. An ambulance was called, but the damage was already done. She was still breathing when they loaded her into the stretcher, but barely. Her pulse was weak. She never regained consciousness. By the time the ambulance reached the hospital, she was gone. News of the shooting spread like wildfire. Within hours, Rip Lyricane was trending across multiple platforms. Fans were stunned. Videos from the scene surfaced online. People crying, sirens blaring, shoes left behind in the scramble. The freestyle that had launched her career was now being replayed over and over, with captions like, "She didn't deserve this," and "They really killed her," for a verse. Police secured the crime scene and began their investigation. But in the early hours there were more questions than answers. No one could identify the shooter. The SUV had no plates. Witnesses were either too shaken to speak or claimed they hadn't seen anything. The club didn't have working cameras in the back lot. It was a perfect blind spot. The showcase continued without her, though the energy had shifted. Performers dedicated songs to her. Some left in tears. For many, it was a reminder of how dangerous chasing the spotlight could be, especially when your truth threatened the wrong people. Lyricane's body was flown back to Memphis the next day. Her mother, who had never liked the idea of her daughter airing personal business in songs, now had to plan a funeral. The girl who had fought so hard to be heard had been silenced just as her voice was reaching its peak. But the story was far from over. The days following Lyricane's death were filled with grief, confusion, and unanswered questions. Her fans lit candles outside the club in Atlanta where she was shot. In Memphis, murals began appearing on brick walls. Her face painted in bold colors, her name written beside wings and broken hearts. The city mourned her like she was one of their own, because she was. Yet behind the tributes and tears, people whispered. Everyone had the same thought, but no one dared to say it out loud. This wasn't random. Someone wanted her gone. Police held a press conference 3 days after the shooting, but provided few concrete details. They confirmed that the black SUV seen fleeing the scene had yet to be identified. No murder weapon had been recovered. No arrests had been made. They encouraged witnesses to come forward, but fear kept mouths shut. On the surface, the case was cold. But behind the scenes, something was beginning to stir. 3 weeks after the murder, an unexpected break came, not from a tip line, but from a routine traffic stop in East Atlanta. A 17-year-old girl, known on the streets as Mimi, was pulled over driving a stolen vehicle. Officers found an unregistered handgun in her glove compartment, along with a prepaid burner phone. When detectives ran her name through their system, they discovered she had been flagged in a separate case as someone possibly connected to local gang activity. Nothing connected her directly to Lyricane until they checked the GPS history on her phone. That phone had pinged near the nightclub on the night of the shooting, within minutes of the murder. It had also connected to a nearby cell tower hours before the show, suggesting the user had been in the area long before the crowd arrived. That was enough to bring her in for questioning. At first, Mimi denied everything. She claimed she had loaned the phone to someone else. She said she was nowhere near the club. But detectives were patient. They showed her surveillance photos, phone records, and a timeline that poked holes in her story. After nearly 12 hours in custody, Mimi cracked. What she admitted sent shockwaves through the investigation. She confessed to driving the SUV on the night Lyricane was killed. She hadn't pulled the trigger, she said, but she had been paid to be there, to watch, to drive, to wait for it to be over and then disappear. According to Mimi, the hit wasn't ordered by Reese as everyone had assumed. It came from someone else entirely. A woman, a name that no one had expected to hear. Tamika Holloway. To the public, Tamika had been Lyricane's former best friend, They'd grown up together, rapped together, posted videos online during their teenage years. Their bond had seemed unbreakable. But those close to them had noticed a shift. Not long after Lyricane's career began to take off, Tamika faded into the background. No more features, no more Instagram tags. Some thought it was jealousy. Others assumed life had simply taken them in different directions. Now the truth was unraveling. Mimi claimed that Tamika had planned the shooting for weeks. She'd scouted the club, arranged for the car, and hired Mimi and an unidentified man to carry it out. The motive, she said, wasn't just jealousy. It was personal. Tamika had been involved with Reese during the final months of Lyricane's relationship with him. It had been a secret affair, one Lyricane had discovered before the freestyle ever dropped. That revelation changed everything. Detectives secured a warrant and raided Tamika's apartment. Inside, they found handwritten lyrics, old voice memos from her and Lyricane's early recording sessions, and more damning, deleted text messages on a hidden phone that connected her to Mimi days before the murder. Tamika was arrested the next morning and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. She denied involvement, called the accusations lies, and refused to speak further without a lawyer. But to investigators, the case was no longer about a jealous ex-boyfriend. It was about betrayal, silence, and a friendship turned fatal. The shooter was still unidentified, but now the pieces were falling into place. The arrest of Tamika Holloway sent shockwaves through the community. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, headlines screaming betrayal and murder. Fans were stunned. How could someone who once stood side by side with Lyricane in grainy videos and childhood selfies be behind her death? The narrative shifted overnight. What had once been seen as a tragedy rooted in a bitter breakup was now exposed as something deeper, something colder. Investigators pored over every detail. Tamika's connection to Reese was confirmed through old call logs and messages. It turned out the affair had started quietly, months before Lyricane released the freestyle. At first it was hidden from everyone, even those in their closest circle. Reese had begun confiding in Tamika as his relationship with Lyricane crumbled. What began as late-night conversations turned physical, then emotional, then toxic. When Lyricane discovered the affair, sources close to her said she was devastated, not just by Reese's betrayal, but by Tamika's. They had been best friends since elementary school. Tamika had once lent her bus money to get to her first studio session. They had shared everything, and now the woman she considered a sister had stabbed her in the back. Lyricane channeled her rage the only way she knew how, through music. The freestyle that made her go viral wasn't just a clever diss. It was a warning, a public call-out of the pain and betrayal she'd been holding in. It may have sounded like a shot at Reese, but those who listened closely heard something more. A woman tearing down the lies that had been fed to her for months. That verse wasn't written in the heat of the moment. It was calculated, and Tamika knew it. Prosecutors believed Tamika feared what would come next. There were rumors that Lyricane's next single, teased just days before her death, would reveal the affair in full. Tamika's reputation in the local scene was fragile at best. She had ambitions too, though none as successful as Lyricane's. Being exposed publicly wasn't something she could risk. She saw the growing attention on Lyricane as a threat. Every new follower, every repost, every lyric brought her closer to being unmasked. So she made a choice. Mimi's testimony painted a chilling picture. Tamika had promised cash, a stolen car, and an easy escape. She told Mimi the target would be leaving through the back of the club after her performance. It was supposed to be quick and clean. What she didn't count on was the spotlight the murder would attract, or how easily her plan would fall apart under scrutiny. Though Mimi had taken a plea deal and would serve time, she cooperated fully with the investigation. Her willingness to speak out gave the case its backbone. Texts, voice notes, and the burner phone tied Tamika directly to the planning. But the shooter, Mimi's unidentified male partner, was never caught. His identity remained a mystery despite several leads. Tamika's trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. Former friends testified. Forensic experts confirmed location data and phone activity. In the end, the jury returned a guilty verdict. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lyra Kane's legacy didn't end with her death. Her mother worked with producers to release the music she had recorded before the shooting. The posthumous EP, titled Unfinished Truth, featured unreleased verses that showcased the fire she still carried in her voice. The final track on the album ended with a raw, unfiltered line that chilled listeners. "If I die over this beat, let the truth be louder than the gun." Fans across the country held listening parties in her honor. Her story became a documentary. Young girls in Memphis still rap her lyrics in schoolyards, wearing t-shirts with her name printed in bold. Lyra Kane may have been silenced by betrayal, but her voice refused to disappear. In the end, the music she made outlived the lies meant to destroy her.